does have an effect on people.
Mate,
and if you're
time.
a young person watching that, even a slight effect on that, it will make it seem like, oh, that's not that bad a thing. And maybe it's not. I'm not saying either way of it, but that they are definitely pushing that drugs aren't as bad as some drugs aren't as bad as others. Which is interesting. I think we differ a little bit on the drug debate anyway. So I don't think we should say it's all okay. But I think maybe a relaxing on drug laws and stuff wouldn't be the bad thing. But
no,
don't know if
you're
you
wrong.
Want to talk about that
you're so wrong.
Is this the first thing we've ever disagreed with on the podcast? I think it might be.
Maybe. I mean, like you say, it's a massive rabbit hole. We could be here for years, couldn't we? But I sort of think now, right, that my point of view is that if everything was illegal now, right, including tobacco of all forms and including alcohol of all forms, I wouldn't vote to legalise it. I would forsake my right to have a beer, right, because of the amount of damage it does, right? I don't think we can ever undo it in this world. If once something's legal, we can never undo it, is my opinion, right? So that's why I don't think we should try and make booze illegal. I don't think we should try and make cigarettes illegal because it's too far now. It's like prohibition. Like you're never going to stop it because people are going to make it, black market, all that sort of thing. But if you've never made it legal, it's much easier to control. I mean, it's still not perfect. You're never going to live in a perfect world. But I think as soon as you make weed legal, as soon as you make cocaine legal, it just literally opens the door to everything else being legal, right? And then all of a sudden we've got everybody taking heroin on comedy films on Netflix, and it's absolutely fine, and we're all screwed and we all die because it's so addictive, Not that I'm saying like marijuana's going to kill us all, but I'm saying like once you make fags legal, then you make weed legal, then you make coke legal, then a little bit of heroin's fine, and then all of a sudden everyone's doing heroin and everyone's dead. That's what I think is going to happen over a long scale. Not overnight, but over 50 years, 100 years, I think that would happen, and there's no going back. Sure. Okay. So the big argument is that how many people is it deterring? The fact that the illegality of these substances, how many people is that deterring? So you're saying that it's deterring a lot of people. Yeah. And a lot of people would buy it and would get it if it were perfectly legal and not against the law, right? Okay. Yeah. I don't know whether I agree with that at all. But I think certainly with weed, I don't think it's really deterring anyone. It's certainly not in America, but in the UK even, I think if people want it, it's been decriminalised for ages here anyway. Like you don't go to prison for it unless you're dealing it. So here's my argument. So let me just lay out my argument, and then we can sort of just go for it. So I don't think I as I've gotten older, I think that I can make good decisions about my body and what I put into it and what I do with it. And I think most people can, and the people that can't are a minority. And I think that the less power the government has over what we can and can't do, the better, personally. So I think that if there is a dangerous drug like heroin that is extremely addictive, then as long as we are honest and there's education about and it's controlled, so I think that is fine, in my opinion. Honestly, I'm talking all drugs. Wow. As long as it's so you could go into a shop and buy heroin and just walk out and do heroin on the street. Yeah,
like for a pharmacy, probably, like, same as like any sort of painkiller or something. But yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it would be illegal to use heroin in a car, be illegal to use heroin in the workplace, all this kind of stuff. Yeah. But
people on heroin can't decide. They don't decide that. They can't. As soon as they take one, 99% of people, they can't. As soon as they do it, like there's no differentiating between in a car or workplace or in the privacy of your own home when you've got nothing to do the next day. We know that. We know that from all we've been told, right, from films and from whatever. As soon as you do that, you'd sell your own grandmother to buy it, right? So
as soon as you're down there, for sure.
Yeah, but but it's not like carbonara. It's like as soon as you take heroin, as soon as you start getting into heroin, right? Not many people go, nah, not for me. It's not too good. Right, I'll leave it.
Yeah.
If you're addicted to it, you'll do it whether you're operating heavy machinery or not. Don't you think?
Yeah, you're right. But that's where that's okay. So this would be the argument. And obviously, we should talk about the worst case scenario, because I think there's obviously a lot of grey area in between that. But the worst case scenario is someone wants to try heroin, they get heavily addicted to it, right? So I would say that the cigarette argument, we've proven out to ourselves as a society that we can deter people from taking something without the government. So we can, through
because the government's implemented that, though, hasn't it? The government's put the taxes up. The government mandates what we write on the boxes. The government
exactly, yeah. So there's no government currently taxing the price of heroin on the street or putting information about how bad heroin is. Well, maybe there is, but there's not much of it. But
I'm saying the government has stopped us smoking cigarettes.
So the government's played a role in it.
We'd still be
sure.
smoking, right? But we're not.
I think it's a mixture. I think the government has done stuff. The tax stuff for sure. It's banning adverts for sure. But also, I think that there's been a big sort of. I guess I don't know I guess maybe there were government funded studies and stuff. I don't know actually who would have been behind that funding of that. But yeah, so let's say the government's to play for the idea that they're causing more harm than good, but I think we should have that information out, and people should make their own choices. And if you choose to be a skaghead on heroin or whatever, that's your choice. But then if you break the law, you're in jail. If you don't, then you can go to rehab and that kind of stuff and get out.
Yeah, but who pays for that? Then we're paying for that.
Well, there is another issue. That's another bigger issue.
We're
the
going to clean up
NHS
that
makes
crap,
things like that.
There's going to be, I don't know what the stats are, but there's going to be at least 20% of people that then become proper addicts that really lose it. So then what are we going to do? Employ 20% more cops and give them the powers to really clean the streets? Or are we going to start paying for everyone to be in rehab, No,
I don't think this... I think you're more cynical about how the population would deal with the drugs
Big time.
in the first place.
Big time.
Unfortunately, I'm a bit more optimistic about it. But
You've
think
got
about the money.
Think
about the money we'd make from these drugs.
But that'd all go into policing and hospitals.
Obviously, we'd tax it through the nose, clearly, but you'd make an insane amount of money. I will agree with you that my plan really doesn't work very well with the National Health Service. Like it would work better in America because then people are liable for their own stuff.
Yeah.
And you've got people paying their way with their own health care. So then individuals truly are responsible for their own health.
Yeah.
At the moment, they aren't in the UK for good or for bad because we've got a National Health Service. So it means that all the least healthy people are causing the most healthy people to pay more than they should.
Yeah.
So I agree with that. That's an issue. I'm just talking. This is just sort of like a sort of a philosophical idea rather than necessarily a practical thing that we can implement right now. But I don't think that the government should be able to tell me what I can and can't put in my body. In all honesty, as long as there's information out there, and there is, we live in a world where there's information on everything, and there's studies on everything. I can tell you right now, I'm never going to get heroin, no matter how legal it is.
Yeah.
I could also buy painkillers. Like, this is the thing. Like, I could easily go to shops and go around and just go to different pharmacies and get enough painkillers to get high off.
Mm.
There's legal drugs out there that do it. It's just that the people that are getting addicted to these drugs, man, they're in a bad way before they get there. It's not like a middle class office worker that's working in a cubicle 9 to 5 every day is just deciding I'm going to try heroin once and then it goes downhill from there. I think it's a very rare case that happens. I think it's the people that are at the bottom already that are struggling, and then I think the uptick in people taking drugs will be low enough that we'll get enough money from taxes where we can actually help these people in a real way, through, I don't know, job schemes or re-education through like college or whatever.
Yeah.
That's my. But then you're right. I could well be being too optimistic here. I don't know.
Okay. What do we put down if we don't agree? I can't put the gavel down.
All right, you put the gavel down. I'll ring the bell.
All right.
3, 2, 1. There we go.
Oh dear. That's good. That's a good thing. We've disagreed on the podcast. Shall we get a top up?
Let's do it, mate.
So today I'm going to go for something slightly different. I'm going to go cocktail, baby.
Yeah.
And this might lead on to something that we're talking about in a moment, right? So just give me 30 seconds to a minute to prepare my drink, and I'll be back. I'm back. I'm ready.
All right. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure.
Get the first sip of this new cocktail you just brewed up for us.
Yeah, man. So this evening, ladies and gentlemen, I am drinking a Manhattan cocktail.
Ooh, interesting. Right? Yeah.
So it's a whiskey base. I usually go for an American whiskey or a rye. Tonight it is Jim Beam because that's what I've got. So there's a healthy double of Jim Beam into a cocktail jug or a cocktail stirrer glass, Double Jim Beam, a single sweet vermouth, 2 healthy glugs of Angostura bitters, handful of ice, a good old stir just to let the ice cool everything and loosen everything off a little bit, and then I strain it into a glass of my choice, which this evening is a sort of champagne coupe.
That's great.
And add a cocktail cherry, one of those sweet sort of maraschino almondy cherries,
Yeah,
which are delicious. So yeah, that's what I'm going for this evening. Mate,
it looks fantastic. Really, really good.
It's strong. It's a manly drink, not to be sexist, but it's like, tough man, tough woman, like you're going to want to drink a Manhattan, right?
Sure.
It's for the hard nuts.
You're drinking a drink. That's for sure.
Big time. It's
that's
like
the thing,
old-fashioned or something,
Yeah. I think that's 100% my kind of cocktail. I want to know I'm drinking something that's strong. I don't want those sort of dangerous ones where it's like too sweet or it's just too easy to go down, especially if they've got a lot of alcohol. Yeah, exactly. they get a hand quick.
Nice.
Cool, man. Great shout. I'm not breaking with the norms today. I'm going for a whiskey, and I don't know whether we've had this on. I think maybe you did a while back, possibly not. But it's another Lafroig.
Oh, cool.
I do drink other whiskies other than Lafroig, but this is another Lafroig, and this is the quarter cask.
Oh, nice. No, I've never had a bottle, but I have tried it in the past.
Okay, cool. Oh, that's good. Okay, so this is a new one. So Lafroig quarter cask, really, really good. So it's non-age statement. So we talked about that a few weeks ago. So we don't know how old the whiskey is inside it. But what we do know is it was aged, at least for a certain amount of time, in what's called a quarter cask, which is a smaller cask. So that's important. So the reason that's important is because the ratio between the liquid to wood goes up as the cask size goes down. So what that means is there's more wood to liquid, which means that you get more wood, more tannins into the spirit itself as it ages. So you could age, basically the rule of thumb is that if you aged like a 12-year-old Scotch in a normal sized sherry butt, which is massive, you could probably age a whiskey in a quarter cask for like 4 years and you'd get similar results. It wouldn't be the same, but you'd get the same kind of aged taste by the end of it, just because it's small. But obviously they don't do that because it just costs way more money to have that many barrels, so they have bigger barrels. That's why they do it. Anyway, it's a gimmick really, but it does make a difference. So that's why it's not age statement, because it's probably very young, but because it's been put in a smaller cask, it doesn't taste like it's that young. Anyway, the Lafroig, man, this one's a smoke bomb. The last one I had was smoky, but this one is pure campfire. But I would describe it like a day-old fire. So imagine you've had a fire in the living room, and it's been burning all day and all night, and you go to sleep, and you come back in that room, and it's been shut the whole time. You've let the fire go out, but the smoke's in there, and it's been shut the whole time. You go in there, and that smell you'd be hit with of a fire that's been in there all day. and you've been away from it for 8 hours or whatever, and then that first inhale you get is just so smoky, and that's what this is, and it's just amazing.
I love it.